Richard Russell of XL Recordings, who's won the Outstanding Contribution to Music.
See, I'll leave with every piece of you.
I'm a fucking walking paradox. No, I'm not. Threesomes with a fucking triceratops.
You apply pressure to help me crystallize.
Tommy, no kissing. Whipping Jeff hard in the kitchen.
Every week, 2 of these, amazing.
Why did you discover that?
My friend, because I've been doing some DJing recently, so I've got one friend who I swap things with him.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible how much. But this is like dance music now, you know?
Yeah.
That's what dance music sounds like.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, but rap became dance.
It's become dance music.
I wanted to talk to you about this because when I see you with Dizzy Rascal, he's one of the guy who put this on the dance floor, who put that kind of rap and that kind of beat with saturations on the dance floor. And nobody gave him that tribute. It's a very UK culture to mix that.
Yeah. For me, it's like a perfect coming together of things, really. Because I was a hip-hop DJ when I started, but really it was hard to really get people to dance. And when it became more like dance music and rave, people dance more. And it was, you know, a lot of us in rave music were really a bit reluctant. Okay, we can play this fast music, but really, you know, but now there's like a coming together, like an integration, which is really exciting.
Am I right if I'm telling you that your story is the story of a guy who started to be a rave DJ, who went to produce the last album of Gil Scott-Heron, went to hip-hop, to beatmaking, DJing, mogul in the industry, and doing the perfect mix between indie and major? Is that good?
Yeah, that's a story. Right?
That's a crazy story.
It's a story. I mean, yeah, I guess. But then everyone's story is interesting, you know? I feel like everyone should, like every person, like if they wrote their autobiography properly, every person walking down the street, it's interesting, you know what I mean? You only get to read autobiographies of famous people. But actually, you take any person, you take your mum, you listen to her story, you know?
Yeah.
People have amazing stories, really.
When you see an artist, when you discover an artist, you always put in a light differently. From Prodigy to Adele, I think this is the same way to put some artists.
Yes, yeah, because it's about the music, which sounds obvious, but it gets lost, you know? The music gets lost. And when people become famous, or they become, people want to make them commodities. They want to make people into commodities, which makes me feel sick as an idea, whereas really, I mean, I'm very specialist. You know, and I don't know about anything except music, really. And the sort of Peter and I have an emotional relationship with music. So really it's all, everything is based on those sort of emotions. You know, if I'm watching a film, I'm a consumer. I'm like, oh, this is good. I don't know anything about how they're doing it though. You know, so that's quite enjoyable. But with music, I'm inside it. All people who love music, you have that. You're like, the relationship is very close, isn't it, with music? And everything comes from that, and it's about music, and the music comes from people's feelings and people's hearts, and that's what everything is about. So to me, it's like where someone is, you know, in their bedroom making music, or someone is like a superstar. It doesn't make any difference. And also, it's like you've got to go and make some more music. It might be more difficult if you're rich and famous to make music than it is if you're not. So it's like, that stuff is like, it's not relevant to anything.
Yeah, but you've never been obsessed by being what they call a game changer, you know? You was always about just music.
Yeah. Because it's all I know about. And because the other things, I think you can get really lost with all the other things. I think I've got more and more like intensely connected to music as I go along, you know? Now, like the music making for me now is the level I'm able to participate, because I've learned so much from the people I've worked with, you know? The records I used to make when I was a teenager, it was so exciting, but it was very, very simple. There was no thought, there were no lyrics, you know? So it was that kind of dance music was exciting. But I think for me, really everything is like a quest for meaning, you know? That's what I'm interested in, is meaning. So,
which is the artist that learned you the most of?
Gil Scott-Heron.
Yeah.
I think I'd already learned a lot from him before I met him. I mean, I think he was such a pioneer. And he changed so many things in music, really, without ever being a big superstar.
And that's crazy about him, because he defined all the way even to write lyrics and to put his voice and to be subversive and poetic at the same time.
And I think if you asked Kendrick Lamar, I think he would say, you know, To Pimp a Butterfly, particularly this record, I think, with the jazz as well, looking back to what Gil did, you know, there's such a very strong thread.
This dick ain't free. You looking at me like it ain't a receipt, like I never made ends meet, eating your leftovers and raw meat. This dick ain't free.
Kendrick, to me, is probably the most important artist in music right now. And the thread to Gil is incredibly strong and direct. You know, Gil had made Gil only made 13 records. But really, all of it, that catalogue is amazing to me, all of it. It's great. Every album has something on it which is completely like transcendent. And there's so many messages in it, and it's so deep and so interesting, everything he had to say and the spiritual quality of it all, and just what a deep person he was. So I think I'd already learned a lot, but then when I met him, there was definitely something of like, we're going to do something together, I'm here to learn something. And he was happy to kind of share what he knew with me.
He said that everything in culture is politic. Every gesture, even a pop star, says something politically. When you produce at the same time Gil Scott-Heron and Adele, what does it say? What does Adele say?
Adele, I always thought was very political from day one, but just by being who she is, looking how she does, doing what she does, being as in control of it, that is political, you know? It's very powerful and it's very liberating, I think. And I've been lucky to work with a chain of very strong female artists, really starting from Peaches, an artist called Layla. Layla she was an electronic producer, she's still a friend of mine, she has a very powerful influence on me. MIA.
Yeah.
Adele, eBay now. These are like very empowered female artists. And I think whilst there's still maybe female artists feel pressure out there in that kind of more pop world, behave a certain way, and they're selling something in a certain way. But I think all these artists have helped to prove you don't have to do that, you do what you want.
Sometimes the relation between a producer and an artist is a crush, like a musical crush. Do you remember the first notes of eBay? They told us her version, we want yours. Comment ça se passe quand on a 17, 18 ans, qu'on est dans le bureau d'un des plus gros producteurs du monde?
Déjà, on l'a rencontré...
On n'était pas dans le bureau, on était au studio déjà.
On l'a rencontré dans un studio.
Direct.
Il a très peu parlé, mais tout ce qu'il disait, c'était comme une flèche.
C'était juste...
au milieu de la cible, quoi. C'était très juste. Dès qu'on l'a vu, on s'est regardé, on s'est dit c'est lui. On savait. Quand on est sorti de là, on s'est dit il faut qu'on lui donne envie de travailler avec nous.
Well, it was funny. This is like the power of negative thinking, right? Because the reason I heard them, really, was because of a negative thought I'd had. I'd been in hospital. I was still sick. I was just starting to recover. I hadn't been on the internet. I mean, I was paralysed for a while, and then I just wasn't, I didn't have capacity.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah. So when I was kind of returning, when I first went on the internet and started looking, I was like, oh, I wonder what people have been doing. It was amazing, really. It was like I'd been to space or something. And I said to my friend, I was talking to, I was like, every new artist I look at, there is a lack of something spiritual there. And sometimes you can have young artists who have really powerful spirituality, but I don't see that. Just at this moment of the things I was looking at. And he said, oh, I'll show you something. And he showed me the eBay. They had a clip on YouTube of them supporting Alice Russell.
It pisses me off. It drives me mad.
I said, oh yeah, that kind of has the quality that I've just been saying is not, because of course, whatever you think is not there in music is always there. You know, people say, oh, music isn't this. Well, it is. It's just you're not hearing it. And you know, people get older and they really lose. They think, oh, the music was so great in the 70s. You know, the music was so great in the 80s. It's like, well, a lot of it was trash. A lot of it was garbage. And there was this thread of something great, you know. and that thread just keeps going. But maybe now you've lost touch with that thread, but that thread's still there. And the charts are still garbage, and there's a thread of something great. So,
it's like people who said that hip-hop was better before. And the first time you did when you came here, you made me hear a new hip-hop track.
Yeah, it's a few weeks old. I mean, that hip-hop's, you know, it's amazing. The energy in it and like the sound. I think hip-hop fans who came from a certain era, the struggle with older hip-hop fans is because there are records now which are less about the lyrics, and the lyrics is more of a, it's part of the texture and the sound. But what that means is, like, I can now listen to French music. Like, it used to be very difficult for me to listen to French rap because it was like, you're just listening to the lyrics, so it's hard because I don't understand. But I think there's an internationalization of this music now that I think artists like Future, it's not, the lyric isn't the first thing, you know, it's the feeling. So people, African music from France, British, you know, it feels like there's something very exciting in that. And I'm a lyrics person, and I love lyrics, and I've always listened closely to the lyrics in music. But I think this way of doing it is also really exciting, you know. And of course, there's still great lyrics in rap music, but there's other ways of doing it now, and I think that brings a lot of opportunities with it. Have you heard this guy Jay Huss? Do you know Jay Huss?
Yeah.
He's amazing, and that sound is like, that to me is quite a global sound.
What time do you listen to new music? When do you choose this moment?
I have certain radio shows I listen to. And
which ones?
I listen to Benji B.
This is Benji B on BBC Radio 1.
As I look around, they don't do it like my click, 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 click.
I listen to his show every week pretty much. I think he's interested in a similar thread of music to me. So he plays electronic music, rap, grime. He hasn't been playing enough of the Afro things, I told him that. He's through, but then he will also play like, he'll play a Radiohead song as well. That's a thread, you know, it's a thread of like music. So I like listening to him. I listen to rap radio shows. Outside of that, I kind of feel like it needs to find me somehow.
Yeah.
I don't like looking for stuff. I think it feels a bit like you're grasping for something. I mean, there's so much music out there, right? So I'm not trying to hear everything because that would be impossible.
Yeah.
I just want the things that are going to... And also because I'm DJing, like that gives you like a certain... Then there's other threads and channels you're looking for, you know? Stuff that you want that's going to like certain BPMs that you're interested in, a certain feeling, you know? Like that song we just listened to, that Audi, Smoke Perp, that's for my DJ set.
How do you feel the industry right now with the streaming, and how did that explode, and how did that change the way that artists can earn money?
I think you can educate yourself, and I'm still doing that, you know. I'll find an artist now, and I'll think, oh, I'd really like to like go from the start and like listen to that and see what the development of that was and the tools for that. So I think for fans and consumers, that's amazing, and I think that for artists to like earn from that is improving. I think it's getting better. I think it's still early days for it. But I think the potential is there for everyone to do whatever. And of course, it's like, it's not easy to make money from music.
Because everybody say that when the CD died, industry died. And right now, everybody says that it's getting better, it's going to be like the biggest age of the music industry.
It's always just going to be up and down, right? And I don't think, I mean, when downloading started and everyone was, oh, it's no difference to me. It doesn't make any difference. Like, the music is the music, you know? The first time someone showed me downloading, it was really early. It was like 91, 92. I was in LA. Someone's like, look, I'll show you, this is like the future. This is what it's going to be like. And I was like, but so what?
A good song is a good song.
Go on and make great records. And so if someone's going to get it through their computer terminal, that's fine. That's not my concern. That's, you know, it was a technological guy showing me this. I was like, that's your concern. And if this is going to work, good for you. You know, and maybe that'll be good for people listening to music. But these things, they're always evolving and changing. And was the CD better than records? Not really. Some things, I suppose, were better. Some things were worse with CDs. So that wasn't even really a big change. Downloads were quite a big change. But then streaming, not such a big change from downloads.
Your record label Excel is one of the biggest indie label in the world, but you don't seem to consider yourself as a businessman.
No, not in any way. I don't think of myself like that.
You never watch a contract?
No, because there's people, really great people who are really like trustworthy people who are serious about that stuff and who do that and who don't want, I don't want to do that, they don't want me to do that, and it's not my strength to do that. And I see myself as a musician, as a producer, and that's what I do. And the record label, Ben runs the record label, he does that brilliantly. I have a partner and they do a fantastic job. I tried to do that, I used to do that, I wasn't very good at doing that. That really didn't, because that's a job for people who have you've got to be stable to do that,
You don't consider yourself as a stable man?
Well, I think my temperament is artistic.
Yeah.
That's my temperament. And it's stable enough, it's functional,
yeah.
But I know what my temperament is, and it's to do with it's to do with emotion, it's to do with the heart, not the brain.
What is a dysfunctional artist?
People in the music industry say, all artists are crazy. This is not true. But far from it. I mean, actually, to succeed, you have to have really a lot of incredible instincts and a lot of confidence and a lot of functionality to be able to do that. And really, you have to be able to work with a team, and you have to have people around you who you're able to trust, and you can't be paranoid. You've got to let people do things. So that does take a lot of. I think to be an artist, obviously you have to have musical talent, but you really have to you have to be kind of like an amazing person really as well. So I think the people I work with, they're all people you can learn a lot from, because it's not just about what your voice sounds like and how you play. It's not, that's one part. The rest of it is to do with your decisions, and so it's, artists are the leaders, they're the leaders in society really. No one's listening to politicians. I mean, it'd be great if there were politicians who you felt you could look at for inspiration. Occasionally it happens. For me, the people who I've always looked to for inspiration and for leadership are artists.
So what's your definition of a functional artist? Of the word functional.
Yeah.
This is the word that you said the most during the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah, well, functionality is making the work. I think you can spend a long time making a record and still be functional, I think sometimes some work is meant to take a lot of time. I think it's harder on a person if you spend a long time. I think it's easier to make a record, put it out, make another record, put it out. Someone like Damon Albarn, I've worked with, this is one of his great strengths. He's always moving. He's never overthinking any of the work. But then, really, I'm an enormous fan of D'Angelo, and that was a 13-year record. And that's one of my favourite records of the last few years, so maybe that's how long it was meant to take. I mean, this is really, I can't think of a longer one, but this Black Messiah, it's incredible. And there's many layers in it, and it's very textured, and it's very complex and very deep, and you can't do that. He couldn't have done that quickly, I don't think.
Since you're in this industry, you see people being the top and the bottom to the top, come and go. What is the common point between those who stayed?
I think a lot of it is to do with open-mindedness. You have to have that openness to what's happening. Like the thing you mentioned earlier about someone in rap music is it's now the way people auto-tune not lyrics. That's I think as soon as you're seeing it like that, that's going to hold you back a little bit. So I think it's the open-mindedness, but then you have to couple that with the strength of your convictions and your character. Really, it's you have to reconcile great certainty, but with great uncertainty. I think these are the two things. You have to accept the great uncertainty of everything, but at the same time have some great certainty about who you are and what you do.
If there is a word to me you can define you, is the word mix, because a good song is a good mix, and a good life is the mix between your passion and the hard work. And you've always been into that. You didn't live the rock and roll and the crazy and the alcohol and drugs life. When you were in the rave party, you were drinking water and going there to work. So how many times?
Yeah, I read that as well.
It was wrong? He lied. He lied. He was on pills. He was on pills.
I never said anything about any of it. I read that.
So tell me,
My wife said
why
that.
did you say that?
No, I didn't
Why
say
did you lie about that?
I didn't say anything about that. I never said anything about that. I read it as well. I was like, okay, that's, that's good. These things are not really like, things like that, it's not really that relevant, is it? I mean, it's almost like what food or drink. I mean, music goes way beyond all of that.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to hear. That I don't care. You can take drugs. It's not my problem. Just want you to work.
Yeah. No, but I'm not really a kind of extreme person like that. I'm more. I got quite a sensitive kind of what do you call it? Constitution.
Yeah.
So I have to be. But even then, in that scene, there was it's kind of true what they said. I mean, I was busy, and I think that's often the case. This is something Brian Eno said to me once. He was like, really, the drugs is like, it's normally like, that's the outsiders really. Like right on the inside, we're all too busy, Yeah. We're all too busy doing music. And it's like, that's always going to be the high, the high is really like the moments you have when you're making something. It's beautiful, That's like, the feeling you can get from the creative act, It's an obvious thing. It's like there's no downside. There's no hangover to that.
And can we talk about your 2 years being in a bedroom in a hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were you thinking of during these 2 years?
Mm.
When you were talking about the negativity and how you turned this?
I had an illness called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a post-viral infection where your immune system attacks your nervous system and everything shuts down. And it's a very like unusual illness in that the deterioration is quick. So it's like getting hit by a bus almost, bam, maybe over a week or 2 weeks, boom, everything's shut down. But then you have two things can happen. Your breathing can stop and then you're really in trouble. Or your breathing doesn't stop and then you've got the possibility of recovery. And I started to recover. And although the recovery is slow, you're getting good news. Small bits of good news. It's like, I've got a bit of movement in my fingers. This is good. And you're kind of appreciating these tiny things. A bit of movement in the face. So you're getting to really, it's a little bit like getting to be very, very, very old, like kind of at the end, and then getting to be young again. It's kind of amazing in that regard. It's quite an amazing, to have that type of illness, but then have a recovery. This recovery, like, if this doesn't give you a spring in your step, nothing will,
What did that change to your mindset?
Well, I mean, I've been very interested in, I've been learning about religion and about spirituality for a long time. Anyway, it was just an interest of mine that I think is connected to the music. I think all these things are connected. And I think most great musicians, there is a deep spirituality there. They might not want to talk about it, but it's there. And it's really underlying everything. And the world is not how it's presented by the mass media, advertising, materialism. This is not, people don't, this doesn't do anything for anyone really. People need something deeper than that. And that's why religion is still very important and still a big part of people's lives. So I think having some knowledge of this and an interest in this, there was a great help.
Did you read holy books?
Yeah, I mean, I read very widely. I mean, I'm interested in all religions and I'm interested in philosophy. So I'm really, I'm a student. I didn't really have a great formal education, but I feel like now I'm having quite an education. And I feel like this with music. I'm still a student. I'm still learning about stuff. I had music lessons up until quite recently, music theory, and I feel like there's a lifetime of stuff you can learn here, and as long as you're feeling that, it keeps you quite fresh.
You've been into a new step now that you're in the light with your album. How do you manage that?
The process wasn't very different from the records I've produced over the last few years. In the room, the process is not very different. It's collaborative. And if I'm producing a record, then I take that seriously. Every note is important to me that's on that record. I'm there for every moment. That is producing a record to me. With the label, there was almost like the opposite. The label is more like let people do what they're doing. With producing, it's more like do you want to do something together? It's different. And with making my own record, it's been a series of collaborations with different people who I found inspiring, where I felt like there was something contribute, but that would also create space for other people. Some people on it who are really experienced, some people on it who are new.
But when you produce a song, I'd like to know, like, are you still doing the beats, or are you like orchestrating everything? Like, I want this, you do this. What are you doing exactly?
Yeah, no, I mean, I tend to do the drums in a variety of different methods. I mean, I have a lifetime's worth of samples, and I'm into drums which have a lot of texture and atmosphere. And often it's more like percussion, really, than drums. It's something quite subtle. But this I have a feeling for, and I'm able to do. Often I'll play percussion with other people and make something from that. We'll play percussion together. Obviously with Ibe, Naomi is a really good percussionist, so she's like central to that. And then together we'll kind of blend electronic elements with the percussion that she plays, the cajon and batas.
Fast forward towards the stars and the jetpack. My feet might fail me, my heart.
This is like something that I focus on, and also the texture, the atmosphere, samples. It's really the kind of non-melodic elements that I'm quite focused on. And then there's like everything else, which in a way is like, the rest of it is what most people are listening to. The part I do is more like somewhere here is like a platform, an underpinning. And then what people are mostly listening to is vocals, chords, melodies. So I like to work with people where I feel like there's honesty there, where they are them and there's a strength to them. And I think sometimes I can help in encouraging people to bring that out as well, just to be themselves, and that's what I'm interested in.
How long can you take on a song?
It's massively varying. So on my record, there's a song called She Said, featuring a new Nigerian artist called Obongjaya, which has Damon Albarn playing keys on it. We did that in the room together. That whole thing from start to finish, when we never went back to it, was done in like between 1 and 2 hours. That was it. That was the whole thing from the start, the writing, everything. And he'd mentioned the idea of saxophone. And then sometime afterwards, Kamasi Washington came and played the saxophone solo on it. That was that whole song. Whereas there's other songs on there which I worked on for 2 years. Everything is recorded, the song featuring Sampha, which is more of an orchestral song and something a bit, it's an ambitious song.
So misunderstood, so misunderstood.
With a lot of, it's got 148 tracks in it. There's a lot of orchestration, a lot of small bits of instrumentation. That went through many versions to get to its...
How does it going when you have a song for 2 years? Like, do you go back and listen to it like every month, and you said like it's not good, it's not good, it's not good?
I think it's very important to like work when you're inspired, to like work on the right thing at the right moment when you've really got a feeling for it. Because you can burn, people can burn themselves out sometimes. So I think you've got to just have that right feeling to do something. So I had that with this record. I was like, I'm just going to do the things at the right time. It's going to take as long as it takes.
We'll have faith. What comes around goes around someday.
Mountains of gold,
Mountains of gold,
diamonds and pearls, diamonds and pearls.
Can we talk about Frank Ocean, who joined your label? What's the difference between Frank Ocean and all the other artists? Simple question.
He's in a unique place in music, really. Blonde is really a masterpiece. Really a masterpiece that stands up with it to anything, any album.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Pepsi.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Trayvon. That nigga look just like me.
I agree.
And the fact that he's really thrown away the conventional structures, the song structures. It's a very, very difficult thing to do that. To do that and make something which is as great to listen to. Obviously if you listen to jazz or classical music, the structures are different. But you have some of that experience of otherness, but then with these incredible melodies and vocal performances and lyrics which are quite oblique, but really say something, but in an oblique way. And I feel like anyone can listen to it. Like it's like amazing pop music, but then with incredible depth to it. It's really joyous, I think, and to see him perform as well, he's incredible. It's like a once in a lifetime kind of artist, I think, Frank.
Do you remember the first time you talked with him, your first conversation?
Yeah, he phoned me once after, kind of out of the blue, completely out of nowhere, shortly after I was out of hospital, and he just had various things he wanted to ask about and talk about, just about music and how you put things out there, and he's doing things very differently and very instinctively, but there's also like a real kind of intelligence to how he's going about everything. The way the show is shot and how you see it on the screens, it's really not like anyone has done it before. So I feel like he's doing things that no one has done before again and again, in like some ways that are quite small and some ways that are quite big.
We'll let you guys prophesy. We gon' see the future first. We'll let you guys prophesy.
Amazing, great inspiration for everyone.
When will you put Adele and Frank Ocean on your label in the same song?
That wouldn't be me doing that would be them doing that.
Is it possible?
I think it sounds like a very, very good idea. I think they are mutually admiring of each other, yeah.
And I don't think it's your first album. Are you working on another one?
It feels like an ongoing thing, because it wasn't really intended as an album initially anyway. It was more an experience of like getting different people into play and kind of see what happens. And it's only really recently that it started to turn into an album. I mean, we're still working on it, It's very close, but we're still working on it. So yeah, it feels like it's a place, It's the studio, it's a place and a feeling. So that feels like that's an ongoing thing.
A lot of A&R today are just watching the views and the clicks on the internet. Like, okay, he's doing so many clicks and so many views, I'm gonna sign him. And you seem to do the opposite. Like, it's hip, I don't want it. They don't want it, I want it. Mm. How do you choose?
I don't consider myself an A&R person, firstly. The label signs very, very few things, puts very few records out. I feel like the things that are meant to occur kind of occur, It's like any type of collaboration, you've got to allow for the right things to occur. And there's many great artists out there, and every artist has got a different way they want to put things out. But yeah, the amount of clicks is always going to be, that's not going to lead you to like the most groundbreaking and inspirational artist or music is the most clicks. It's because then it's like, what's the best-selling food? You know what I mean? It's like McDonald's. That's not.
When you take a project, you change it. You turn it into something else, and this is what the label should do to have an identity.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it does. I'm not sure that is what happens though. It's more that it presents things that are strong.
Yeah.
And it like doesn't take anything away.
Yeah.
It's more, it's more allowing things to have their real undiluted strength, and allowing people to like be great and be strong, and like maybe helping to encourage that a bit. So it's really, I read a thing recently about, he was a athletics trainer, and he was saying, he works with runners, and he was saying, I'm not telling anyone how to run, that wouldn't work. I'm looking at how they run, and I'm helping them to do that as well as they can. And I thought that's a good metaphor.
I think that you knew the time where going to a studio was something magic. Right now, all the artists can do it at home. How do you feel about that?
Well,
is it still magic to go to the studio?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I think from the moment that, as a child, I understood that all the music, which included all the music I love, had been made in a recording studio. I was like, what is this? What is this thing? What is this place? This is clearly a magic place. Well, all these records, they were made in one of these places. These places must be unbelievable. And then I think when you first visit them, that was my feeling. I was like, it is incredible. There's obviously magic to this. It's like a temple, isn't it? It's like, what's this place for? It's for making music. Well, that's magical straight away, just by saying that's what this place is for. That's what we do here. That is a magical thing. I mean, when I was recording with Gil Scott-Heron, we recorded in some of the big studios in New York, and they were all closing at that time. So we started in Philip Glass's studio, Looking Glass. We did the first few sessions there, it closed. We moved to a studio called Clinton in Hell's Kitchen, did a few sessions there, it closed. It's like the doors were closing behind us. This was a sad phase. But, and you know, there were studios closing, there were record shops closing. And people, I think, were thinking, you know, with the computers, the internet, we're not going to need these things. Okay. But then I think what's happened is, now that our lives are we're fully merged with the devices, with the computers, with the technology, with the internet, that's happened. That's the world we live in. And it's like, but we do still need recording studios. We do still need record shops. I just think there was a moment of uncertainty. So now I think there's a new wave of studios and record stores as well.
What software do you use on the laptop?
Logic. Yeah, I really love Logic.
Why?
Because it's good for using samples. It's good for editing. It's good for creativity. Pro Tools obviously has some advantages for recording, but Logic for like the creative side of it is very powerful, and I love it. And Liam Howlett introduced me to Reason in about 2003, Propeller had Reason, 2002. So that kind of got me back into beat making, and then Logic was like a natural progression from that. But there is a natural evolution, I think, which is that if you get into making music on a laptop, using GarageBand or Ableton, whichever the software is, there's a point where, even if nothing else, you think, well, it would be quite nice to be doing this with some big speakers. That's just more fun. Once you're there, it's like you start realising there's other toys, you know, and maybe it's just for fun. But then what you'll find is the fun tends to feed the creativity. So, you know, in some ways it's a luxury now to have the big monitors, the analog synths, the desk. In some ways it's a luxury because you can get stuff on a laptop. But then in other ways it does fuel a type of creativity which is a bit different. So I like the combination of the approaches. I think that's good. I like to have an actual 808 drum machine, especially if I'm working with someone who's 20 years old who hasn't necessarily played with one before, you know, because they're fun. That's really fun. That's much more fun than using samples of an 808. It's badass. Something happens when you use that. It's great. But at the same time, I think it would be very boring if you're like, everything has to be analog. We have to do it that way. No computers. So to me, it's more like a mixed approach to it.
What is the studio session that you will never forget?
Oh man, I mean, there's been so many incredible moments. I mean, I think Bobby Womack recorded that song Deep River in like one take, which is really like an old spiritual song. We were just talking about the kind of his musical background and history and songs he'd grown up listening to, and he was like, "Oh, I'll play you a song." And he used to play his guitar upside down, and he played us Deep River. Damon in the studio with him, and we were rolling, and that's on the album, that performance, and that was really something like kind of mind-blowing. Like it felt like that's like the deep roots of what all of this is about, and he's a big part of that, big part of the kind of deep roots of soul music, and it just felt like such a privilege to be there. And he was also, Bobby was he's a Pisces like me, you know, and he's very gentle and had a lot of humility and had been through a lot and seen a lot. And he kind of finished it and was kind of like, you know, and we were just, when he was like, you know, what do you think? Like, and it was like, I don't think he could see how incredible it was necessarily, and how much of him, how beautiful that was. So that session, that moment, was very magical, and also the fact that that song is there, Deep River, on The Bravest Man in the Universe is there, and you're hearing that.
The show is called Clique. Last question: what's your definition of a clique?
Of a clique?
Yeah.
C-L-I-C-K.
C-L-I-Q-U-E.
Ah, clique. How come? Why is the show called Clique?
Because everyone has a definition of a clique.
Really?
What's yours?
Give me someone else's first. Who else have you asked?
A group of people going on the same way.
Yeah.
Spreading their values and their positivity to the rest of the world.
That's good. Well, I think with everything is recorded with this, there's definitely a feeling there that's emerged doing it, of like it being, the recording being very communal and everyone contributing to other people's work, and it being something that kind of transcended the individual, you know, and kind of went beyond that. I like the idea of the clique being that. Sometimes I think it's used to mean something a bit more like elitist, like it's about us, we're, you know. But yeah, I like the idea of it meaning more of a something that transcends the individual.
Welcome to our clique.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.